Assalamualaikum to our lecturer, Madam Nur Syahira binti Azni, and to all our fellow classmates. Today, we are going to presenting about Asian financial crisis.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Wanwa Kamarina binti Wan Hadi. Matrix number 2019400198 from KBA 1195F.
My name is Nur Shazwani Shamimi binti Ahmad Sohaimi. My matrix number is 2019427592 and I'm from KBA 1195F.
My name is Nur Izwani binti Zohari. My matrix number 2019220372. I'm from class KBA 1195F.
My name is Nur Adila binti Muhammad Abdul Wahid. My matric number is 2019413708 and I'm from KBA 1195F.
My name is Nurusna binti Romli. My matric number is 2019411788. I'm from KBA 1195F.
So, what we focus on this presentation, firstly, the introduction will be presented by Nurul Husna. Second, the international risk management, which is market risk, presented by Nurul Izwani. Third one is issues in international banking, which is Asian financial crisis, presented by Nur Shazwani Shamimi. The fourth one is the effect of the Asian financial crisis and lesson learned from the Asian financial crisis, presented by Nur Kamarina. And the last one is the conclusion will be presented by Nurul Ardila.
The main purpose is to learn everything there is to know about international risk management and contemporary issue in international banking. Identifying, assessing, and responding to risk factors that occur during the course of a company activity is what risk management comprises. Effective risk management requires working proactively rather than reactively to try to control future events as much as possible. As a result, good risk management has the potential to lower both the likelihood and the severity of a risk. Market risk or price risk is one sort of international risk management. Most banks manage market risk with a short-term focus. The Asian financial crisis had a negative impact on the Asian economy, which then spread to the rest of the world. The Asian financial crisis has deteriorated after COVID-19. As a result, Malaysia must address this issue to prevent it from spreading.
I will present about international risk management. Market risk is caused by adverse changes in the level of volatility of market prices for interest rate instruments, stocks, commodities, and currencies. Market risks are classified into two groups. The first is systematic market risk, which is generated by a change in the cost of all market instruments as a result of macroeconomic variables such as an economic policy shift. The systematic risk is a non-diversifiable risk that cannot be removed regardless of the number of securities held in an investment portfolio. Inflation, recession, interest rate, political view, and other variables have all contributed to systematic market risk. The second is unsystematic risk, which occurs when the price of one instrument divides from that of other comparable instruments due to events involving the instruments issued. Unsystematic risk is a diversifiable risk that is exclusive to a single business. New competitors and lawsuits are among the unsystematic risk factors. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a huge impact on the financial markets, with the market risk being among the most seriously affected areas. Therefore, the governments of all nations impacted by the COVID-19, including Malaysia, are implementing a variety of actions, including locking down and shutting down all economic sectors, resulting in a loss of output, income, and employment, and many more. This is because, in the event of a health-related crisis, the situation becomes more serious for the country since economic operations are stopped. Economic lockdowns may have a large impact on market risk since there are immediate threats of COVID-19 in Malaysia, where all social and economic activity is restricted. Therefore, the country is currently undergoing a severe economic recession. However, if the government can successfully manage this risk, the country's economic status will improve. To avoid daily portfolio losses, most banks manage market risk in the short term. The best strategy for measuring market risk is to use indicators like value at risk and expected shortfall. Value at risk is a technique or tool that allows banks to estimate how much money their trading portfolios will lose over time. Next, expected shortfall is another strategy that provides benefits over value at risk in the form of reduced portfolio negative risk.
For the Asian financial crisis, at the end of the 1990, the Asian financial crisis adversely affected the Asian economy and then the world economy. There are two considerations that might explain the reason for the Asian economic currency and financial crisis that occurred in 1997 and 1998. To begin, unexpected fluctuation in market expectation and confidence were the primary causes of the first financial crisis. It spread top time and regional transmission. The crisis represented structural and policy weakness in Asian countries. Furthermore, structural imbalance contribute to the 1997 currency and financial crisis. When the crisis began, market overreaction and herding led to a more severe drop in exchange rate, asset values, and economic activity than was indicated by the initial poor economic situation. As for the current issue in international banking now, Malaysia's economy sees its worst year since the 1998 Asian crisis. Malaysia's economy downturn accelerated again in the fourth quarter as a new global pandemic late in 2020 contributed to the country's poorest annual performance since the Asian financial crisis. As we can see from the table, gross domestic product fell 3.5% year-on-year in the fourth quarter, the third consecutive contraction, and a worse drop than the negative 3.1% number expected by analysts followed. The economy shrank by 5.6% in 2020, its worst result by 1998, and well below the government forecast of negative 3.5% to negative 5.5%. According to an economist at Overseas Chinese Banking Corp in Singapore, the numbers are an undeniably small print to close the year of 2020 on a top note. With the challenge persisting into the first quarter of this year, the market may unwittingly view drops GDP report as one major indication that Bank Negara Malaysia may have to reduce.
Now, let's move on to the effects from the Asian financial crisis. Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, South Korea, and the Philippines were among the countries hardest hit by the Asian financial crisis. Their currency exchange rates, stock markets, and other asset prices all fell. The affected countries' GDPs fell by double digits. Between 1996 and 1997, Indonesia's nominal GDP per capita fell by 43.2%, Thailand's by 21.2%, Malaysia's by 19%, South Korea's by 18.5%, and the Philippines by 12.5%. The Asian financial crisis had political ramifications in addition to its economic consequences. Young Chayut, Thailand's General Prime Minister, and Suharto, Indonesia's President, both resigned. An anti-Western sentiment was sparked, particularly against George Soros, who was blamed by some for causing the crisis through massive currency speculations. The Asian financial crisis had a far-reaching impact that went beyond Asia. International investors have become less willing to invest in and lend to developing countries worldwide, not just in Asia. Because of the crisis, oil prices have also fallen. As a result, major mergers and acquisitions in the oil industry occurred in order to achieve economies of scale. Now, let's move forward to lessons learned from the Asian financial crisis. Many countries learned from the financial crisis to build up their foreign exchange reserves in order to hedge against external shocks. Many Asian countries devalued their currencies and restructured their economies in order to generate a current account surplus. The surplus can help them increase their foreign exchange reserves. The Asian financial crisis also raised concerns about the role of the government in the market. Neoliberals advocate free market capitalism. They saw the crisis as a result of government intervention and crony capitalism. The conditions set by the IMF in their structural adjustment packages also aim to weaken the relationship between the government and the capital market in the affected countries, thereby promoting the neoliberal model.
The deteriorating economy is undoubtedly very concerning for the government, particularly in this era, as it has a significant impact on the country's deadline when hit by a dangerous virus, not only in this country but throughout the world. So, of course, the health problem poses a risk to the country, especially the financial market, which is market risk being the most severely affected sector. As a conclusion, the government took precautionary measures by closing all sectors of the economy. The sector closure results in a loss of output, income, and employment that affects everyone in the country. As a result, Malaysia is experiencing a severe economic downturn. Despite the recession, the government is undoubtedly discussing strategy to revitalize the financial sector in order for Malaysia to recover. Among the things done in the government relaxing restriction, where Malaysia has made several restrictions to combat the threat of COVID-19 by allowing the retail sector to reopen after the health director identified the virus cases Adil Aini. Following a month-long closure that is estimated to cost the economy 700 million ringgit per day. Finally, the economic situation will begin to improve and recover if the government manages this risk, because an extreme recession can put Malaysia in an unsafe zone due to bankruptcy. So the steps taken have both pros and cons, but the government is aware of the economic situation so that a recession can be avoided.
Thank you for listening. Do anyone have any question for us?